Hello and welcome to the podcast We Are Selling, brought to you by Realtair, the home of pitch, sign and sell. Today's topic, we have a brilliant female agent going to share her story as we discuss how you build a powerful brand that isn't from your name, but from a brand standalone. And she joins us now, Lyndall Allan from the Hunter Newcastle region of New South Wales. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Lee.
Interesting story yours, and I'm going to get you to share it. How long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for 25 years. I started at 19. I was a bubba.
Very rare someone comes out of school into real estate. Everybody else just sort of has a life-defining moment and ends up in real estate. So good to see you come in that way. And then you were actually at one company for 16 years, which was quite a powerful brand here in the Newcastle area. And then right at the peak of your career, you decided to make this crazy decision to do what?
We decided to pack everything up, and my husband and 3 kids and myself travelled Australia, left everything behind. We originally planned to go for 10 months, but we ended up doing 18 months around Australia and 6 months around New Zealand.
Now, a lot of our listeners would think, I don't know if I could ever unplug from real estate, and you were a top-performing agent where you were. How were you able to completely unplug?
It was very difficult, I'm not going to lie. I even remember being in Cape York where there was no phone service and I kept hearing my phone ring. There was no service, but I was so used to being attached to it. I think it probably took me nearly 6 months to actually completely wind down and relax, because I think real estate is such a state of mind, right? It's 24/7. And 2017 we're coming off the back of a boom. So it did take me a really long time, but it was honestly the best thing we've ever done and probably the biggest gift we ever gave to our children.
What did you learn being on the road for 2 years?
I learnt that it's funny because when you're in the bubble, it's so obvious, and then you step out of the bubble and you forget what you've learnt. But I've learnt how precious the time is with your family. I learned how incredible this country of ours is. The diversity is next level. I never realised how beautiful it is. When you travel, everything goes out the window. Nobody asks you what you do for a living, what car do you drive. It's about who you are and where you've been, where have you come from, what have you experienced. And it really just strips life back to basics, no makeup. You know, you might not get a shower for 3 days. You might have 2-minute noodles for dinner 3 nights in a row, and that's fine. So it really kind of took life back to basics, and I promised myself that I wouldn't go back into that crazy life of real estate, but here we are.
And this next part of our story is going to kick in. Just on this though, because I find it very connective, you would have learned a lot about reading people when you travel like that. And then you also had to learn another skill, which was social media blogging. What did you do there?
Yeah, so we ended up becoming travel bloggers by accident. We ended up getting picked up by several companies, including our caravan company, and they basically paid for the last part of our travels. So from that, I learnt a lot. The power of social media is incredible, and I've certainly taken that back into my career, and I think it has really helped me skyrocket, and also starting a brand from scratch. It's been a heavy tool that I've leaned upon. But I think learning how to connect with people. You know, this business of ours is a relationship business, and why we did so well in the social media space is that we were very raw, we were very real, and we were very honest. So I've taken that and it's always been the way that I am naturally, and I've always operated like that, but that is now the base of my business.
So you return back from the trip, you decide you do love the place where you're originally from.
I do, very much.
And driving back into town, you would have felt all the listening moments, everything coming up around you. And then you've decided you're not going to go back to what you did. You're going to start your own brand. Take us into that.
Yeah, so it's probably, if I'm brutally honest, the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. Like, you know, leaving a career at a peak and your life behind to travel in a 23-foot van was insane. It was before anyone had ever done it as well, so we didn't know anyone. But starting a business, this was probably, definitely actually the hardest decision ever. But I just got to the point where I wanted skin in the game. I want to do something for myself. I had a very sort of modern approach and ideas that I just couldn't really bring to the surface where I was. And I knew I was a really hard worker. I knew that I was willing to put the time and the effort in that it took to run my own business. And it was just my time. The kids were older. My husband supported me. And yeah, so I took the leap and best thing ever.
What did you call the business?
The business is called Salt Property.
Why is it called Salt?
A few things. I knew that I loved the name Salt many, many years ago. And as much as everybody told me I had to use my name because my name was my brand, I really didn't want to do that. And I'm so glad that I stuck with my gut on that. You've always got to listen to your gut, because all my coaches, my mentors, my friends, marketing, you've got to use your name. And I went against it, and I'm glad that I did. So I use Salt because it represents the coastal region that is Newcastle. I sell a lot of the high-end coastal homes, and I wanted it to be a fresh, modern boutique brand. I wanted it to represent the city, but yeah, I just wanted something vibrant. I also wanted to be able to maybe even hide behind the brand, I'm thinking, and also attract other agents to work under a brand. Whereas if the brand is all about me, I think it makes that a little bit harder.
What have you learned? And just for our listener and our international listener, how long's Salt been going at time of recording today?
2 years and 6 weeks.
Now, there was a bit of a defining moment for Salt, and that's when you had a very, very good sale come in. Take us into that, because that sort of boosted the whole presence of the entire agency.
Yeah, it really did. So 12 months in, I'll never forget it. I got a phone call at the beginning of January from some clients that I had previously worked with, and they rang me and said, "Do you want to sell our house?" Now, this house was in the prime position in Newcastle. It was a 3-year-old rock star view, ocean views from 6 bedrooms. Like, it was next level, and I couldn't believe they offered it to me. So I went on to sell that property for $11,050,000, which broke the city record, and it was also the highest sale in the country that week as well. So
wow,
I know. That was a pretty pinch myself moment to break the record in the city, but then to have the highest sale in the country under a brand that I created. That was not lost on me.
Now, that established client, you'd represented them some years ago, but at a very different level.
Yeah, that's right. I had sold 2 properties for them before, and the house that I sold for them was their interim house before this one, which only sold for just over $1 million. But that lesson, the lesson I've learned from that is, again, was nurturing those relationships. I had no idea they weren't at that level when I met them and when I sold for them all those years ago, but I did a really good job, 10 years ago, and then we got overs a few years before. So for them, it was just a no-brainer to use me. And I had what they said to me is, "You've nurtured this relationship and you've proved that you're the right person for the job." And they didn't even interview anyone else. So it was pretty lucky.
Great story. And just for our listeners thinking, wow, is that the main type of property you sell? You've had a career in Newcastle doing mainstream real estate. Like, for most of your career, what did you sell?
I would say more averaging sort of between 1 and 2 million is probably where I was generally at. My record before that was 6.6, but I'd only ever sold another one for in the high 5s, and then there was a big jump back down to maybe 2.5, 3. So I hadn't really specialised in that high end. It really put me in that space, and I'm forever grateful for those vendors.
Now, you've become attracted to this top-end premium part of real estate. It suits the brand. What attracts you to that? And I'm not talking about price, but the type of person you're serving and working with. Why do they engage you, Lyndall?
That's a very good question. I think because they know that they're getting honesty from me at all time. I think that's incredibly important in what we do. I have a reputation for my brutal honesty, and I even say to my vendors, I will not lie to you about the valuation. I will not make up offers. I will give you honest feedback. And I think when vendors know they have all the information, then they can make a decision knowing that it's the right decision because they have all the information to start with. So I think the honest approach goes a really long way. I'm also known for being a really hard worker. I put the effort in and I think I market very well. I'm quite creative. I don't just put it on Real Estate and Domain and then wait for the buyers to come. We really fight to match the buyers to the property, and we get creative in how we market that as well. Marketing is very important in that higher end.
A bit of depth and context into creative. What do you do?
So I've had to look at different ways over my career to be creative and reinvent myself. So some examples of that with the higher end, it might be putting on a pretty prestigious champagne viewing where we might have music playing. If there's a piano there, I'd have a pianist come and play some music. We'd have French champagne, we'd have canapes. We have wait staff. We put on a very high-end classy show, and it just gives it a very special feel to it. We have goodie bags. I might have the architect there, the electrician there, like all the specialists that were involved in the build or the making of that property, they would be attending. So it's like an event. So for something like that, that's something that nobody else is really doing to that level. It all takes a lot of time and effort and energy, and you have to lean on lots of people, but it's all worth it. And I think that's where people are seeing the value in working with me. Back in the earlier days, I've got 3 kids, so I've had to reinvent myself multiple times in my career. So I've had to continue to come up with ways to be creative and reinvent myself. I went through a phase of dressing up where it was leaning into the social media space. I would connect the outfit to the property. For example, I sold a church that was converted to a house, so I put a wedding dress on and we did a video with me throwing flowers in the air, and we did another one where it was a 60s home and it still had all the original 60s furniture and carpet, and I dressed up in 60 outfits, that sort of thing. Those videos went absolutely crazy, but it just gave me a point of difference. It got people talking, it got me in front of people. Little things like with my business, I've got magnets with clips on them. So everybody else in Newcastle does a calendar and they get thrown out every 12 months. Well, I have a magnet with a clip where you can put your bills or your birthday invitations, and they don't date. The amount of listings I've got from those clips is unbelievable, but it's just thinking outside the square and being creative.
Take me into the team you've built around you rapidly.
Yes.
And there's a couple of things about this team that stand out and are interesting. Take us into that.
So, we now have 10 amazing women. So it is a female-only business. It wasn't my intention originally, but the universe naturally made it that way. Like I started hiring a couple of females, and then I really liked the vibe. I've worked with pretty much all salesmen my whole career, and there's not that many females in our industry up this way. So, we decided that was going to, again, be our niche and our point of difference. So going back to being creative, not that that's creative, but about creating something that's unique, that is now a female-only business.
What agents or branding of agents have inspired you through your career to even consider that?
Well, I don't actually know any other female-only real estates. I know there's one, I think, up in Noosa Way that a few people had pointed out to me. But as far as female agents in the industry goes, there's a Sonia Walkham who was a bit of a legend here in Newcastle. I know when I started, one of the guys I worked with 20 years ago said, you could be the next Sonia Walkham one day. She was an absolute legend, and it's a privilege to, be told that I'm on the same path that she was.
How amazing. We're recording in Newcastle today, and I've just done a session for a group of 26 people, and I brought up Sonia Walkham because I did her interview right before she passed. And funny enough, the day I was at Sydney International Airport and I got a text message from an agent I got a text message from Robin saying the front cover of the magazine's out and it's Sonia Walkham. 2 seconds later, I got a text message saying Sonia Walkham's just passed.
Oh.
And it was just one of those things you never forget. But she was an iconic nurturer of relationships.
Absolutely.
And these big properties you're selling now, all the surgeons in those, she rented a flat to those surgeons when they were first coming in to study their craft. That's interesting you bring her up. Take us into the marketing of the brand. What do you feel you've done well?
I think I've done well by choosing my colour. Pretty basic, but a lot of the brands in Newcastle are black and white or dark green or dark navy. They're not very vibrant. So I wanted you to be able to not drive past one of my signs and not see it. So it's this beautiful, vibrant green, bright green, blue colour for people that don't know the brand. I think, keeping things pretty simple with it as well. Like salt is just 4. It's not, multiple names and super long. It's just salt and then a little bit of a property on the bottom. So it's easy to recognise. With my marketing from day one and with growing the brand, I was pretty anal in everything that went out. It had to be bang on perfect. Even little things like when I launched my website, I invested in doing a proper video about it was only me to start with. I actually had my mum and my friends and everyone else to try and bulk it up. But I invested money very early into marketing my business, whether it was letterbox drops or sponsoring the local team or billboards, whatever it was, whatever I made, I put it back into marketing Salt. And it really did not take long, like literally, I think 3 to 4 months, where my fear of people not knowing where Lyndall Allan was gone. And I was very well connected to that brand.
And that was a deep fear, wasn't it?
Huge.
Where is Lyndall Allan gone? She's not here anymore. She's no longer part of it. And then Salt pops up. Take us into that time. Was it nerve-wracking?
It was incredibly nerve-wracking. When you've worked with another brand, and it was the only brand I had ever worked with in Newcastle because I was from Sydney originally. So when I arrived in 2006, I started with this brand. So everyone knew me for that brand. So I had, and all my contacts, every sale, every phone call was connected to that. So there was a huge fear of, can I do this? How can I do this? Will I be able to do this? But you know what, Lee? In the end, it was like, well, if it doesn't work, I go back. It was something that I had to do and I had to try. And you know what they say, fortune favours the brave. Yeah. Worked, thank goodness.
With the team members that have joined you now, you're in that interesting part of, one, you're a brand new brand, and then the onboarding process needs to kick in, but we haven't been around that long to look at the last 15 years of doing something, which is an advantage. But what's your expectation of the team members who've joined you who are not you, but the brand's the brand, but they've got the same chance in the brand? What's your expectation?
My expectations are high, I'm not going to lie. I feel like probably the best asset to Salt is the team that I've been able to grow. The girls that are working within Salt are incredibly passionate, hardworking, they're honest, and their values very much align with my values. So they very much understood, I was saying how we never lie about anything. That is an absolute non-negotiable. It's an absolute non-negotiable. But even little things, like I've always been very big on my presentation. I like closed-in shoes. You always wear a jacket when you do a listing appointment. Your hair has to be clean. When we do open homes, the sign has to be straight. The mat has to be straight. The candles have to be, there's a process and it works, and I expect them to do that. But they do it naturally. They're only basic things, but we're professionals and you have one chance to make that impression and it has to be right. So they've been amazing. I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done without the incredible girls I work with.
Take us into your role. Would you see yourself as a traditional principal leader of a business or the modern new Salt leader who's listing and selling real estate, doing everything? How do you see it?
Definitely more of a modern, not traditional at all. And look, I'll be honest with you, I am faking it till I make it. I still am learning it. I'm loving it. Am I making mistakes? Absolutely. But I'm learning from those. I have great coaches like yourself and mentors that help me through that. But yeah, I think I very much listen to my team. We have meetings every morning. We have a quick meeting and then we have
the huddle?
Yes, always. But I listen to them. I ask their advice. I want their input. I don't want this to be the Lyndall show. Like the dream I have for Salt Property is to create a base for women to learn how to sell real estate without ego, with integrity, with passion, with attention to detail, and really, make a difference in these women's life, but try and change that stereotype that agents have. Yeah, I'm very lucky. The girls are great.
Yeah, and you've definitely done well in the getting the signals right. Like you're coming across as a property advisor brand.
Yes.
that you're advising the purchasers on their options and also the sellers on the price improvement plans you can do on property to get the results. In the marketing and showcasing of real estate, what's important to you here or even your own non-negotiables?
So as far as the marketing the properties go, I'm a big believer that you should put a price on it. I think if you listen to the feedback, it's one of the biggest gripes is that we don't advertise a price. So if you look at my website, you'll see that majority of the properties have prices on it. So it's not a non-negotiable, but it's just a part of that more modern way, I guess, of giving that information and listening to what the buyers want. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else is a non-negotiable. Just as far as the marketing goes, it has to be bang on. The photos, they have to be crisp. They can't be, distorted in any way. It has to just look 5-star, in my opinion.
Very good. Now, the connection to the community has been rather rapid. I think you've come in at a time that maybe people are looking for a fresh alternative, something different. The Newcastle market's been held for a long period of time by the same people, and credit to them, they've done an amazing job, but then suddenly you pop up with the team. What do you think the community's connected to most with the brand?
I think the fresh modern approach. I think even the fact that I don't have my name has kind of taken the ego out of it straight away. I think we've connected really well with the brand because of our social media. Our social media is very user-friendly. It's very raw. We don't take it ourselves too seriously. Like one of our most popular social media posts is bloopers. We regularly post our bloopers. People love that. I feel like it gives them a chance to kind of see who you are, not just this really polished person all the time, and therefore you're kind of connecting with people. Yeah.
Final questions for you, and you and I were chatting, and I must thank you for being here today. I only called you last night,
That's
and I know
okay.
you're on Channel 7 later on today, so I was very lucky to get that window of opportunity with you.
No, I wouldn't miss it.
But being a voice for the female agent of the future is really important. What advice have you got for the ladies of our industry who want to get this right? What is that pathway, what to do and what to avoid?
That's a very good question. Thanks for the heads up on that one, Lee. What to avoid, what to get right. Look, I think to get right is know what you're talking about. Do your research, do your homework. You need to have credibility in men or female, right? But you need to go in there and know exactly what you're talking about. So put the time into making sure you know your recent sales or you have a rough idea of what the property is going to work. You don't want to look silly. You don't want to give them any excuse to go, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, because that's something that I have certainly encountered, especially in my younger years. It's definitely a lot better than what it was. But, 20 years ago, I was maybe 23, 24. It was hard to be taken seriously. So don't give them any excuse not to take you seriously. Look at how you look. Like I say, you don't have boobs out, for example. Don't have a short skirt or a short dress on. Have a jacket on. Have closed-in shoes on. Look the part. You want to be taken seriously. Look like a professional and know what you're talking about.
Very powerful advice. I'm not allowed to say any of those things, being a male coach and trainer, but you're right. If you want to be taken seriously as a professional, and being a professional is a decision, it's not GCI.
Yes.
And I look at people I work with in different things. It happened here last night. There was a lady setting up the room, the events room, and she was just fantastic. She was just a professional. You could see she would be doing a lot of weddings and big events. And this is not a big event, but her standard stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I asked a technical or detailed question about the AV, knew how to work it, what to do. They're just decisions that someone will research, get their product knowledge and get that right. And another big question, how do we sell a house, is an important checklist. That sequence needs to be nailed off. And a lot of people think that isn't important, and that's when the amateur side kicks through.
Yes.
And in marketing and social media, tips for the girls.
Be yourself. Be real. Connect with your your listeners or your followers, be informative. Don't be ego. I'm number one because of this. We often do, I did one this morning actually, informative reels, like try and keep them under a minute 30. We did one this morning about why pest and building reports and strata reports are so important for vendors, but also for buyers. Keep it informative, make them learn something, but also keep it interesting. Don't just have a just sold, just listed. Look, we do all that too, but videos I think are a very powerful tool to get people to know you. And again, it's a relationship business. So if you are creating that relationship without actually sitting in front of people, you are winning. Be consistent, but be yourself.
Final question. What's on your focus list at the moment to further progress this brand? You've had so much on, you're selling a lot of real estate, and you come under the category of demanding real estate, meaning when you are representing people at that level, they have a huge expectation. This is not run-of-the-mill real estate. And I have a lot of agents go, be good selling that at that level. You've got to know how to maneuver and work with the owners at that level because they have a huge expectation in the investment they're making. But what's on your focus list?
I think my focus list at the moment is to really grow the team around me. So I have some amazing agents that are working with me at the moment, and my idea is to really get them confident in what they're doing and really make a name for themselves in this town and allowing them an opportunity to shine and to be the best that they can. So we're spending a lot of time on training and coaching and, nurturing them so they can shine. And I'm really learning the art of delegation and learning, my best skills are the listing, selling and running the business. And everything else I have to let go of, which is incredibly hard when you're a control freak like myself. But a big vision for me is just having more structure, letting go of what I don't need to do. And then for the business, really growing those gorgeous girls into amazing agents.
Well, Lyndall, you've done an amazing job and a great story, and one I know everyone in all the countries listening to this particular program will enjoy. And I want to thank you for joining us on We Are Selling.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege.